You know, travel is supposed to be this magical thing, a way to see the world, soak in new cultures, eat amazing food, and tick off those bucket list destinations. But here's the cold truth nobody really wants to admit. For seniors, traveling can be just as dangerous as it is exciting. In fact, some of the very things that make travel so fun, the chaos, the unpredictability, the spontaneity, can actually turn into serious threats once you hit a certain age. And let's be real, nobody wants to talk about it. We've built this narrative around you're never too old to travel. While that sounds inspiring, it's not the full picture. Yes, you can still travel when you're older. You should travel. But pretending that it's just as easy and risk-free as it was when you were 25, that's dangerous. And honestly, it's disrespectful to the reality seniors face on the road. So today, I want to do something a little different. I want to rip off the Band-Aid and talk about the real dangers seniors face when traveling. Not just the fluffy advice like make sure you pack an extra sweater or stay hydrated. I'm talking about health risks, scams, loneliness, and the kinds of situations that can genuinely ruin your trip. Or worse, I'll be blunt. Some of these points will make you uncomfortable. That's the point. If you want to stay safe and still enjoy the adventure, you've got to face these dangers head on. Let's start with the big one, health risks. When you're younger, your body is kind of like a tank. You can pull all-nighters, eat questionable street food, carry heavy backpacks through airports, and still bounce back after a day of rest. But once you hit your 60s, 70s, and beyond, that tank starts to rust. Chronic conditions like diabetes, arthritis, and heart disease don't just magically disappear when you book a ticket to Rome or Bangkok. If anything, travel stress makes them worse. Jet lag, climate changes, foreign foods, and disrupted medication routines can push your body to its limits. Here's something most seniors underestimate. Even minor illnesses hit harder on the road. A younger traveler who gets food poisoning might lose a day in bed. For an older traveler, that same food poisoning could lead to dehydration, hospitalization, or even something life-threatening. And hospitalization abroad? That's a nightmare most people never think about. According to international health insurance companies, seniors are the most likely age group to end up hospitalized while traveling abroad. Not teenagers, not gap-year backpackers, not business travelers, seniors. Actually, studies show that seniors account for nearly 40% of all medical evacuations worldwide. That means almost half the people who need to be flown back home because of a medical emergency are seniors, who thought they were just going on a fun trip. And do you know how much a medical evacuation costs? Tens of thousands of dollars. Sometimes over $100,000 if you need an emergency flight with medical staff on board. If you don't have the right insurance, that bill lands directly on you or your family. Take the case of James, a 68-year-old who went on a cruise in the Caribbean, thought he was being responsible. He packed his meds, checked with his doctor, and even avoided risky foods. But on the second week of the cruise, he had a heart attack.
Why?
The ship's doctor stabilized him, but he had to be airlifted to Florida. The bill? Nearly $80,000? Insurance covered some of it, but not all. So that trip, which was supposed to be his retirement celebration, left him financially and emotionally drained. And here's the kicker. Hospitals abroad don't always provide the same standard of care you're used to. Some countries require cash up front before they'll even admit you. Yes, you heard that right. You could be lying in pain, and the hospital won't treat you until someone pays a deposit. For seniors traveling alone, that's terrifying. What if you can't reach family? What if you don't have enough credit on hand? This is why I say traveling without robust travel insurance as a senior is like playing Russian roulette. Yet every year, millions of seniors still skip it to save money. Like, blows my mind. You'll spend thousands on flights and hotels, but you won't spend a few hundred on insurance that could literally save your life. That's not frugal. That's reckless. Now let's talk about something people really don't want to admit. Mobility issues. This is a touchy subject because no one wants to admit they're slowing down. But let's be honest. Lugging heavy suitcases, sprinting through airports, climbing steep staircases in historic cities, or just walking for hours on cobblestones. That stuff takes a toll. Even if you think you're fit, travel can expose weaknesses you didn't know you had. And the travel industry doesn't exactly make it easy. Elevators don't work in half the charming boutique hotels in Europe. Some airports require walking literally miles to get to your gate. And if you've ever tried hailing a taxi in a foreign city while juggling bags, you know how physically demanding it can be. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Mobility issues can make you a target. Thieves notice who's moving slower. Scammers pick out people who look confused or tired or physically vulnerable. Seniors often fit that description, whether they realize it or not. So here's my controversial take. If you know mobility is an issue, don't let pride get in the way. Use mobility aids. Book assistance at the airport. Pay extra for transport instead of walking miles with luggage. Some people think this makes them look old, but you know what really makes you look vulnerable? Struggling, limping, and trying to pretend you're not. Now, here's a topic that really fires me up. Scams. Seniors are prime targets, not because they're naive or unintelligent, but because scammers, older travelers, often come from a generation that values trust and politeness, that be kind to strangers mentality. Yeah, scammers exploit it. Let's break down how this works. At airports, scammers pose as taxi drivers offering cheap rides. At tourist sites, they approach you with clipboards for charity donations. Some even pose as hotel staff, offering to help with your bags, only to disappear with them. Others distract you with a performance, while an accomplice picks your pocket. Take Margaret, a 72-year-old woman who went to Europe. She thought she was street smart. She'd read the blogs, watched the YouTube videos, knew about pickpockets, yet she still got conned by a street performer who distracted her long enough for someone else to swipe her wallet. She lost hundreds of dollars, her credit cards, and worst of all, her sense of security. That's the real cost of scams. Here's my controversial opinion. The travel industry doesn't warn seniors enough about these dangers. Travel agencies want your money, airlines want your bookings, but nobody wants to admit that older travelers are disproportionately targeted, so they sugarcoat it. They say, "Oh, just be cautious." That's not enough. Seniors need to be trained like soldiers going into battle. Seriously, you should practice how you'll react if someone distracts you. You should have a plan if someone grabs your bag. Sounds paranoid, until it saves you. Another danger people overlook: social isolation. This might sound less serious than scams or health emergencies, but it can be just as damaging. Seniors traveling alone often struggle with loneliness. And loneliness on the road isn't just feeling sad. It can make you more vulnerable to scams, more likely to make bad decisions, and even affect your physical health. Studies show loneliness actually weakens the immune system. Here's the hard truth. Traveling alone as a senior can feel liberating, but it can also be crushingly isolating. Imagine being in a beautiful city with no one to share it with. You sit down to dinner alone, and instead of soaking in the atmosphere, you just feel disconnected. For some, that loneliness turns into desperation. And desperate people make risky choices. Trust the wrong stranger, join the wrong tour, or go places they shouldn't just to have company. So what's the solution? Stay connected. Video call your family, sure, but also push yourself to meet new people. Book group tours, stay in accommodations that encourage socializing. Hey, don't let isolation turn you into an easy mark. Let's not sugarcoat it. The combination of health risks, mobility challenges, scams, and isolation can create a perfect storm. Seniors aren't just dealing with one or two dangers, they're dealing with all of them at once. And ignoring this reality isn't brave, it's reckless. But here's the good news. And yes, there is good news. With preparation, you can avoid most of these dangers. Register with your government's travel advisory service. Carry a personal locator device. Make a plan for emergencies. Learn the common scams in the country you're visiting. Don't just assume things will work out. Travel is incredible, but it rewards those who prepare. Here's my final thought, and this might sound brutal. If you're a senior traveler, you have two choices. You can either believe the Instagram fantasy that travel is always safe and carefree, or you can accept the reality that travel has dangers especially for you, and prepare accordingly. One path leads to disappointment, maybe even disaster. The other path leads to confidence, safety, and unforgettable experiences. So which path are you choosing? And let me throw this back at you. If you face scams, health scares, or other dangers while traveling as a senior, share your story in the comments. Not only will it help others learn, but it might just save someone's life. Because let's face it, the travel industry doesn't care about protecting you. Airlines won't warn you about scams. Tour companies won't tell you how dangerous it really is. But here, we're telling the truth. It's uncomfortable, it's controversial, but it's what you need to hear. Travel isn't just about seeing the world, it's about surviving it. And if you can do that, then yes, you can enjoy every single adventure, no matter your age. And hey, if you found this video helpful, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone you know who loves to travel. This really helps keep this community growing. Also, check out the links in the description. I've included some resources and products that can make traveling safer and easier for seniors. Stay safe, stay smart, and keep exploring.